This is the most terrifying screen on the entire internet. 0 subscribers, 0 views, 0 watch time. It feels like standing on the edge of a massive silent canyon, shouting into the dark and waiting to see if any sound comes back. But today, I am taking the leap. I decided to start a brand new YouTube channel from scratch. No budget, no fancy studio, and absolutely no cheating by telling my friends. I wanted to see if a regular person with a phone and an idea could still find a voice in this crowded world. We see creators with millions of views and think they just got lucky or had magic gear. But every single giant channel started exactly where I am right now, staring at a blank white screen, wondering if anyone will ever care about what they have to say. My mission was simple but brutal. Write, record, edit, and publish my very first video in 1 week. No excuses, no putting it off until next month. The clock was ticking and my empty channel dashboard was practically mocking me to even try. Naturally, my brain immediately started looking for excuses. I thought, I need a professional camera, a giant studio light, and a microphone that costs more than my rent. But looking at my empty wallet, I realized I had to use what was already in my pocket. My phone. It has a tiny lens, a cracked screen protector, and a microphone that picks up my breathing like a wind tunnel. But it shoots high-definition video. I taped it to a stack of heavy books on my desk, and just like that, my studio was born. For lighting, I didn't have a giant softbox. I had a window. The sun is the best free light source in the universe, but it has one major problem. It moves. If I took too long to record, my face would slowly slide into complete and utter darkness. Now came the hardest part. What actually makes a good video? I spent hours scrolling through successful channels, analyzing their titles and thumbnails. I filled 3 cheap paper notebooks with messy brainstorms, trying to find a concept that felt real and exciting to make. The secret, I realized, is the hook. If you don't grab someone in the first 5 seconds, they click away forever. I needed a story that started with action, not a long introduction where I introduce myself and talk about my breakfast. Nobody cares about my breakfast yet. I sat down to write the script. Writing for video is completely different than writing an essay. You have to write exactly how you speak, with short sentences and punchy words. I wrote 3 separate drafts, throwing the first 2 directly into the recycling bin with frustration. By midnight, my hands were covered in ink and my desk was a graveyard of crumpled paper. Every idea felt either too boring or too complicated. I was trying to sound like a genius instead of just sounding like myself. I had to strip away the pretense. I decided to focus on one simple story, a story about a challenge. If I could make the viewer feel the struggle, they would want to see the ending. I locked in the final script, took a deep breath, and prepared to face the camera lens. Pressing the red record button is a bizarre psychological barrier. The moment that tiny red light starts blinking, your brain completely melts. I forgot how to speak my native language. I forgot where to look. I stared at the lens like it was a predator. I spoke my first line and it sounded incredibly stiff and robotic. I sounded like a bad weather reporter who was forced to work on a holiday. Hello, welcome to my channel. It was awful. I stopped, deleted the clip, and tried again. I repeated that first sentence 30. My throat was getting dry and my voice was cracking. I was physically sweating just from sitting in a chair and talking to an inanimate piece of glass. Why was this simple task so incredibly hard? I realized I was trying to perform instead of just sharing. I closed my eyes, took a deep breath, and pretended I was talking to my best friend, sitting right behind the camera. Suddenly, the words started to flow a little more naturally from my mouth. Just as I finally found my rhythm, the universe decided to test my patience. My neighbor started using a loud lawnmower right outside my window. The low, rumbling noise completely ruined 3 perfect takes. I had to sit there in silence, waiting for them to finish. An hour later, the lawnmower stopped, but then a delivery truck honked its horn. It felt like a comedy sketch, but I refused to give up. I kept recording, line by line, slowly building up my confidence with every single take I completed. After 3 long hours of talking to myself, I finally hit the stop button. I had 45 minutes of raw video footage. Now came the next massive mountain to climb, the editing process, where the real magic of storytelling actually happens. I imported the files into my basic editing software. Seeing your own face and hearing your own voice on a screen for hours is a special kind of torture. You notice every weird facial twitch, every long pause, and every single time you say, My first pass was a total mess. It was way too long, slow, and boring. The magic of editing is cutting out the fat. I went through the timeline with a digital pair of scissors, brutally chopping away every unnecessary pause and filler word. Suddenly, the video started to have a heartbeat. By cutting the dead air, the pacing became energetic and fun. I learned that what you leave out of a video is often much more important than what you keep in. Less is almost always more. But a talking head can get boring quickly. I needed visual variety. I started drawing simple, silly doodle animations to help explain my points. They weren't masterpieces, just basic shapes with thick black outlines, but they added a unique charm to the story. Next was the soundtrack. Music controls the emotion of your viewer. I spent 2 hours listening to copyright-free tracks, looking for something that felt optimistic but slightly quirky. The wrong song can completely ruin the tone of an entire scene. I added subtle sound effects, a soft pop when a doodle appeared, a paper rustle when a transition happened. These tiny details are almost invisible to the viewer, but they make the whole video feel incredibly polished and professional. With the video finished, I faced the ultimate gatekeeper of YouTube, the thumbnail. If people don't click, the video doesn't exist. I needed a design that was simple, high contrast, and instantly readable on a tiny phone screen. I chose a bright yellow background. I drew a simple, expressive cartoon version of my face looking shocked. I added just 2 words of big, bold black text, 0 views. It was simple, punchy, and told a clear story without being cluttered or messy. Next was the title. I wrote down 50 different titles. Some were too clickbaity, others were too boring. I finally settled on a title that promised a real story and a clear question. I started a YouTube channel from scratch. The moment of truth had finally arrived. I filled out the description, added my carefully selected tags, and dragged the video file into the upload box. My heart was pounding in my chest as the progress bar slowly ticked up to 100%. I hovered my mouse cursor over the bright blue publish button. It felt like launching a tiny paper boat into a massive, stormy ocean. I clicked it. The video was officially live for the entire world to see. There was no turning back now. And then the silence began. I refreshed the page. 0 views. I waited 10 minutes and refreshed again. Still 0. The initial rush of excitement quickly faded into a cold, heavy feeling of insignificance. The internet did not care about my video. I had to fight the constant urge to check my phone every 30 seconds. It is a dangerous trap that can drive any creator completely insane. I decided to close the laptop, walk away, and go for a long walk outside to clear my head. Walking through the green park, I looked at the trees and the sky. Nature doesn't care about algorithms or click-through rates. It helped me put things into perspective. This was only my first step on a very long journey. Why was I expecting instant success? When I returned home and opened my laptop, something miracle-like had happened. The view count had finally changed. It said 1 view. Someone, somewhere on this giant planet had clicked on my video and watched it. Oh, I felt an incredible rush of gratitude. A few hours later, a notification popped up. A comment. I opened it with trembling hands, terrified it would be a mean troll. Instead, it was a simple message. Great job. Keep going. It was from a complete stranger. That single comment made my entire week. The next day, I dived into the YouTube Analytics dashboard. It is a goldmine of information, but it can also be incredibly confusing. I looked at the audience retention graph, which shows exactly where people stopped watching my video. The graph showed a steep cliff right at the beginning. I lost 30% of my viewers in the first 10 seconds. It was a painful reality check, but it was also incredibly valuable data. My hook wasn't fast enough. I had to improve next time. Instead of feeling discouraged, I felt excited. The data was telling me exactly how to get better. This was the real secret of YouTube. It is not a lottery. It is a game of continuous improvement. Every video is a chance to learn one specific lesson. I immediately grabbed my sketchbook and started planning my second video. I wanted to apply everything I had just learned. I would make the hook faster, the visuals cleaner, and my delivery much more energetic and natural. This is where most people quit. They post one video, get 10 views, feel disappointed, and give up forever. But the real magic happens in the grind. It is about showing up week after week, even when nobody is watching. Consistency is not about being perfect. It is about making a promise to yourself and keeping it. I committed to a schedule, one video every single week, no matter what obstacles came my way. With each new video, I focused on improving just one small thing. On video 2, I focused on better lighting. On video 3, I focused on smoother editing. On video 4, I focused on storytelling structure. The progress was slow, but visible. Slowly, the algorithm started to notice my consistency. My impressions began to rise. The platform was testing my videos with small groups of new viewers. It felt like a giant machine was slowly waking up and looking in my direction. My subscriber count slowly crept up. 10, 50, 100. These weren't just numbers on a screen. They were real people who chose to subscribe to my journey. I started replying to every single comment, building a tiny, friendly community. There were still days of intense self-doubt, days when a video I worked hard on got fewer views than expected. But I had to remind myself of my original mission: to learn, to experiment, and to share the honest process. I realized that starting from zero is actually a superpower. When you have no audience, you have complete freedom to fail. You can experiment, make mistakes, and find your voice without any pressure or expectations from the public. I started to fall in love with the actual process of creation, rather than just the end result. The feeling of turning a blank page into a finished story is incredibly fulfilling. The views became a nice bonus, not the main goal. YouTube is a compound game. Your old videos keep working for you while you sleep. A video I posted 3 weeks ago suddenly started getting views from search. The effort you put in today builds the foundation for tomorrow. One morning, I woke up and checked my dashboard. I had reached a milestone that once felt completely impossible. My channel had reached 1,000 subscribers. It was a surreal moment that proved the system actually works if you stay patient. I looked back at my very first video. It felt incredibly cringy to watch. My voice was stiff, the lighting was bad, and the editing was rough. But I felt a deep sense of pride. Without that awkward first step, I would never have grown. The biggest obstacle to starting is always inside your own head. It is the fear of being judged, the fear of failure, and the pursuit of perfect gear. But perfection is a trap that keeps you standing completely still. If you have been thinking about starting your own channel or any creative project, this is your sign to begin. Do not wait for the perfect camera, the perfect script, or the perfect time. The perfect time does not exist. Grab your phone, find a quiet room, and record something real. Make your first video bad. Get the awkwardness out of the way as quickly as possible. The only way to learn how to swim is to jump into the water. My journey is still just beginning. There are many more missions to complete, challenges to face, and lessons to learn on this channel. But I am no longer afraid of the empty dashboard. It is a canvas waiting for a story. Thank you for being part of this day. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe and join me for the next mission. Remember, the best time to start was yesterday. The second best time is right now. See you next week.